This account of an extraterrestrial encounter comes from Phantoms of the Night, or ETs, written by Lorraine McAdams. This is an adaptation, and the full details of her life full of encounters can be found in her book. This video is merely scratching the surface. In July 2008, I had a strange dream, and this dream was very vivid. I dreamt that a small, tic-tac shaped, cream-coloured craft about the size of an average car had landed in my front garden. In my dream, I got out of bed, opened my front door, and went across the garden to meet a handsome blonde-haired man who looked no older than 28 at most. He had climbed out through a door on the side of his craft and was waiting there to greet me. After this, I woke up, but unusually, I have never forgotten this dream. 2 days later, I was driving back from the library with my husband, as we often took the children to pick books in order to encourage them to read, when to the right of our car, in the lower field down the road from our house, my husband pointed at some strange crop formations that had appeared there. We stopped the car on my request and got out to examine these formations, and they were in the shape of a capital H and the swastika. My husband, who is normally very cynical and very scientific, went into the field to take a closer look, and he had to conclude that the markings could only have come from something landing there, as there were no footprints except his own on the wet grass. Moreover, when we climbed out of this field, we noticed that a Land Rover with blacked out windows was waiting nearby, and it felt very much as if the driver was waiting for us to go, which we did. We did not have any cameras or phones capable of taking photos with us at the time, so no, we did not take photos. When we arrived at our home, an amazing thing happened. There was also a black Land Rover parked on our drive, and being annoyed by someone's cheekiness, we both looked to see who was driving it, or at least I did, since my husband was concentrating on his driving. The strange thing was that the driver of this vehicle looked just like the man I had greeted in my dream a few days earlier, being blonde, handsome, and frankly, Nordic looking. He had a woman with him, also blonde with long hair, who was very pretty and also looked Nordic in appearance. When they noticed us, they looked surprised and quickly got out of our drive and drove off. I felt very stunned by this, but I did not share with my husband about the dream I had experienced, because I don't really think he would have believed me about the man in the vehicle looking identical to the one in my dream. It was now the middle of August 2008, and I was feeling very hot. We had experienced an unusually hot summer. I had opened my bedroom windows and left the curtains open to try and get some fresh air in, but it was too hot and I could not sleep, so I got out of bed with the intention of making myself a cup of tea when my eyes caught sight of some lights over the field in front of our house. As I looked at the far field, behind the bushes in the distance, a number of strange lights, bright white in colour, quickly came apart, then came back together again. Fascinated, I watched these for some time, until they suddenly went out. Then I decided it was probably some kids playing jokes with flashlights, and went back to bed with a glass of water. About an hour later, I was woken up by a loud humming noise, which sounded like there was a helicopter or something huge over the house. I ran to the window to see what was overhead, and was amazed to see a round object in the same field. It was cylindrical in shape, and looked as big as 2 buses in my estimation, and moreover, as I watched, it rolled on its side like a wheel. It looked enormous, and there were orange and green lights intermittently flashing along the sides of this thing. I watched it for a few minutes, until suddenly the lights went out, and it just seemed to disappear. You may assume that I would have run to wake the boys, or my husband, but being very tired indeed by now, I just went back to bed and went back to sleep, Even though I was feeling somewhat shocked by all of this, why on earth, having seen this huge craft, was I so calm? I told my husband the next day, vowing and also warning him that if these lights appeared again over that field, I would drive nearer to get a closer look. 2 days later, I was obliged to carry out my threat as the lights did return. This time it was the zigzagging white lights, and I immediately got changed and went to get in my car. Looking at the car's clock, I saw that it was 3:15 AM. Feeling very scared, I made my way towards the M6 junction of the motorway, taking the road out of the village towards the roundabout. I had got halfway down this road when to my right, at the bottom of the long drive that leads down from the field where I had witnessed the lights previously, I saw that there was now a stationary, pearl-coloured, egg-shaped craft parked there off the minor road. I have never seen anything like this before or since. I estimate that it was about the size of 2 large cars on top of each other. It was cream in colour and looked pearly in the night light, as if it was lit up from inside. I don't remember seeing windows, but there was a door in the middle of it, and in front of this open door or gap stood 2 figures in silhouette. I could not for some reason make out their features, but they were both very tall, thin, and proud looking in their bearing. I also felt that they were male and that they were waiting for me. By this time, I had pulled to the side of the road, but fear prevented me from getting out of the car to take a closer look. At the time, all sorts of things went through my head, such as, are they going to abduct me if I get out of my car? Is my car going to start again? In the event, I got the engine started, and I drove off towards the M6 South exit in a real panic. To this day, I don't know why I took the motorway exit. I was by now, though, in great shock and definitely not thinking straight. Significantly, as I entered the motorway feeder road, a tall, blonde man tried to wave me down. He was to my right on the edge of the road, and he wore ordinary clothes, pale chinos, and a light summer jacket and a shirt, and he was waiting on the grass verge that bordered the feeder road, but I did not stop. I was too scared, and I now found myself on the M6 and had no option but to head for the nearby service station, where I thought I could pull in and calm down a bit. I was so confused and scared by then that my hands were shaking, so I pulled into a lay-by close to the service station, only to notice what appeared to be a white lorry parked about 50 yards to my left. Thinking that the driver might know of a turnoff that led back onto the M6 North, and still feeling panicky, I got out of my car and went towards this plain white lorry, which strangely had no logos or number plates that I can recall. A tall man emerged from the cabin and stepped down onto the tarmac. He had wavy, short, strawberry blonde hair and was quite handsome in appearance. Strangely, it was as if he was waiting for me. I ran up to him and asked him how you turn around for the northern M6 motorway, since I was on the south side, and he didn't speak at all, but just gestured me to follow him in his lorry. So instinctively trusting him, I got back in my car and followed what appeared to be the back end of his white lorry, but there was no rumbling truck engine sound as he set off. I found this strange in retrospect. I followed him for at least 10 minutes, and I felt as if we crossed over a bridge. Then he sped up and left me to it, or so it seemed from my perspective. When I got back home at 5 AM, and this in itself was unusual as this journey usually takes 20 minutes at most, my husband asked me where I had been. I told him what had happened, and I don't think he believed me. He made out that I'd been following Chinese lanterns. This was definitely not the case. Thinking about this lorry afterwards, although I have never been hypnotically regressed back to that night, I now suspect that it was not a lorry at all, but some kind of craft that I was made to think was a lorry, because when I drove back to the same service station, There was definitely no way to turn around and head back north at all. To head back north, you have to drive further south to the next M6 junction. This is definitely the case. So what happened to me that night? This is what I think really happened. I believe I was rescued by the same people who had earlier attempted to get me to approach their visible craft. For some reason, they cared enough to come and rescue me off the M6, knowing that I was in a bad state. Why do I now think this? Because there is just no other explanation, that's why. There is no turning road at the service station I pulled into that would get me back going north. I have since checked, it is blocked. And even if you got around the block, there is no road bridge. The lorry was plain white with no visible logos. I have never seen a lorry with no logos. Have you? Additionally, I have since recalled some of the event back and remember seeing a white wall in front of my car, so there was no way that my car was following that lorry, or it would have just collided with it. I believe that what I have recalled was my temporarily being taken up into some kind of white walled holding bay until it was safe to put me back down onto the motorway. Also, the man did not say anything to me, he merely gestured at me. Have you ever met a silent lorry driver? The events of that night continue to haunt me, and more was to follow, as you will see. You can go deeper and learn more about Lorraine's encounters with her book, Phantoms in the Night or ETs, which is available through Sixth Books. Head over to our website for more information. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for future content, and we'll see you next time.